Chapter 1. The Silence Descends. Imagine waking up to a world that has lost its breath. The sky, once a comforting blue, dissolves into an infinite black void. Stars, previously hidden by daylight, now pierce the sky with piercing brilliance. The sun blazes unfiltered, blinding, its light sharp as a knife. There is no wind, no rustle of leaves, no whisper of life. The world stands frozen, not in calm, but in a tense, unnatural silence. The silence of a planet stripped of its atmosphere. Every human, every animal, every bird collapses within seconds. It is not mere suffocation. Within 15 seconds, the pressure that keeps blood in veins vanishes. Fluids boil at body temperature. Eyes swell, skin cracks. Lungs designed to inhale oxygen pull only emptiness. The heart strains against internal pressure loss. Earth, the cradle of life, is exposed and vulnerable in the void of space. The atmosphere was more than gas. It was an invisible scaffold, maintaining the symphony of Earth. It distributed heat, allowed water to remain liquid, carried sound, and shielded life from deadly radiation. Without it, physics itself becomes lethal. A single moment erases the delicate balance that allowed billions of years of evolution to flourish. Seconds stretch unnaturally. Bodies convulse as blood boils and moisture evaporates. Even those deep underground feel the absence of air as pressure equalizes, tearing tissues apart. The planet is silent. The sky, black and endless, seems alien. Without air, time itself feels suspended. Chapter 2. Oceans in the Void. The oceans respond violently to the absence of air. Water, freed from atmospheric pressure, boils at body temperature. Steam rises instantly and escapes into space. Within hours, the seas shrink, leaving vast salt-crusted plains littered with the skeletal remains of marine life. Precipitation collapses, clouds vanish, rivers dry to cracked veins in the Earth's crust. The hydrological cycle, refined over billions of years, is annihilated in hours. From orbit, Earth loses its familiar blue. Continents appear gray and lifeless. Oceans, once the planet's pulse, whisper only to the void. Tiny droplets, once suspended in the air, vanish instantly. Storms, rain, and currents, all are gone. Marine life dies almost instantly. Phytoplankton perishes within minutes, destroying the foundation of food chains. Fish collapse as gases violently escape their bodies. Whales and dolphins die as internal pressure ruptures organs. Within hours, the intricate web of oceanic life is destroyed. Evaporation continues relentlessly. Within days, shallow seas form a thin crust of salt. Escaping water carries away heat, accelerating the freezing of what remains. Ice spreads across oceans, rivers, and lakes, locking them in a crystal skeleton. Earth becomes a ghost of itself. Chapter 3. Sun and Shadow. With no atmosphere to scatter sunlight, the day side of Earth burns under direct, unfiltered solar radiation. Temperatures soar above 120 degrees Celsius in mere hours. Asphalt melts, vegetation combusts silently, flames extinguished immediately for lack of oxygen. Nights plunge to minus 150 degrees Celsius, cold seeping into frozen soil, cracking mountains and buildings alike. There is no wind to redistribute heat, no clouds to soften the sun. Cities, glass towers glinting like ice, shatter under thermal stress. Bridges warp, roads buckle, birds mid-flight freeze, mammals collapse where they stand. Leaves desiccate, becoming brittle as porcelain. Sound disappears entirely. The planet is mute. The vacuum itself amplifies the sense of alienation. Even deep underground, animals suffocate as gases escape from their burrows. From orbit, Earth is a planet of extremes. The day side scorched white, the night side black and frozen, oceans partially crystallized, rivers frozen mid-flow. Shadows are harsh, cutting jagged lines across landscapes. Light, unfiltered and piercing, reflects off ice and glass, dazzling any surviving observer. Philosophically, this is the moment life experiences its final exposure. Not with fire or violence, but with the indifferent precision of physics. Every living organism feels the absence of the air it relied upon. Time seems to stretch infinitely as seconds become agonizing minutes in the mind of any observer. Earth is no longer a living symphony. It is a frozen sculpture in motionless silence. Chapter 4. Radiation and the Naked Earth. Earth's magnetic field still hums, but without an atmosphere, it no longer shields the surface from deadly solar and cosmic radiation. Ultraviolet rays, X-rays, and charged particles bombard the planet directly. The UV index skyrockets to levels far beyond survivability. Within minutes, exposed cells begin to disintegrate. DNA strands unravel, microorganisms vaporize, and surface materials begin to ionize, glowing faintly with spectral light. Satellites, once orbiting peacefully, fry under intense solar storms. Auroras no longer dance. Charged particles streak across frozen continents in violent flashes. Radiation alone sterilizes the surface, preventing life from returning for centuries. Without the protective scattering of air, sunlight becomes blinding, lethal. Dayside temperatures exceed 120 degrees Celsius. Nightside temperatures plunge below negative 150 degrees Celsius. Ice forms instantly, cracking rivers, lakes, and oceans. Thermal expansion fractures the crust, creating jagged, lifeless landscapes. Even life underground suffers as radiation penetrates deeper over decades, sterilizing microorganisms and small plants that might have survived the surface collapse. The Earth becomes a radioactive sculpture, frozen, lethal, silent, a warning of the fragility of life when stripped of its invisible shield. Chapter 5. Freezing and Decay. Weeks become months. With no atmosphere to retain heat, the planet loses its last warmth into space. Oceans freeze into colossal sheets of ice, hundreds of meters thick. Rivers crystallize into reflective glass-like veins across continents. Forests are suspended in frozen motion. Leaves crack at the slightest pressure. Branches snap without a sound. Cities stand intact but lifeless, glass and steel distorted under extreme thermal cycles. Every creature, from insects to large mammals, dies in place. Fish trapped in evaporating shallow waters boil and freeze simultaneously. Birds and mammals that once relied on air for breathing suffocate instantly. Soil microbes perish, halting all decomposition. Photosynthesis halts. Plants die within hours, their roots incapable of extracting nutrients from frozen, sterilized soil. Dust drifts endlessly over frozen plains. Prehistoric forests, once lush, now resemble crystalline cathedrals, skeletons of life preserved in ice. The planet becomes a museum of extinction. Every valley, riverbed, and city is a monument to the vanished biosphere. Even structures built by humans face slow destruction. Without atmospheric pressure, expansion and contraction due to temperature swings fracture glass and concrete. Steel bends and warps, creating jagged, frozen ruins. Life is gone. Only the remains of its former complexity endure, silently observing the void. Chapter 6. Cosmic Scars. Decades pass. Earth, without atmospheric shielding, becomes exposed to countless micrometeorites and cosmic debris. Fragments that once burned in the sky now strike the surface directly, forming thousands of craters across frozen continents. Tectonic activity continues. Frozen oceans fracture, creating jagged alien terrain. Earth resembles the moon, cratered, scarred, frozen. Frozen rivers are shattered like glass. Oceans are icy tombs reflecting faint sunlight. Radiation continues to sterilize the crust. Cosmic dust accumulates in the thin, gray layers over mountains, plains, and cities. Solar flares strike unimpeded. Charged particles etch minerals and ice with ghostly luminescence, spectral signatures of a life that no longer exists. Even tectonics, once a force of renewal, becomes indifferent. Mountains rise, plates shift, volcanoes occasionally rumble, but the Earth's surface is sterile. Ice and rock bear the scars of cosmic bombardment. The planet drifts in the void, a frozen, scarred relic, beauty and destruction fused in silence. From orbit, Earth appears fragile, the glint of frozen oceans, cratered deserts, and jagged mountains. There is no green, no flowing water, no clouds, only the cold, harsh geometry of an unprotected planet. Chapter 7. Echoes of the Past. Imagine an alien observer discovering Earth. They would see only a frozen gray sphere, a planet stripped of life, yet still geologically active. They would never know it once teemed with laughter, storms, rivers, and song. Clouds no longer exist. Rivers no longer flow. Air no longer carries the vibrations of sound. The atmosphere was memory itself. Every gust of wind, every storm, every breath of humanity recorded in invisible waves of energy. Without it, memory vanishes. Cities, forests, rivers, monuments frozen in time, mute witnesses to a vanished biosphere. Art, language, and culture are silent. Even tectonic activity, which once renewed the planet, cannot restore life. Time becomes meaningless. Earth drifts, scarred and frozen, holding echoes of what once was, but now irretrievably lost. The atmosphere, which carried sound, heat, and life, is gone. The memories it preserved evaporate with it. The planet mourns silently, invisibly, without witness. Silence becomes absolute, eternal, and unbroken. The lesson is stark. Life depends on invisible forces. Remove them, and even the mightiest civilizations, forests, oceans, and songs vanish. Earth is no longer a cradle of life. It is a mausoleum floating in the void, a reminder of fragility and impermanence. Chapter 8. Absolute silence. Centuries bleed into millennia. The oceans are frozen solid or have evaporated entirely into the void, leaving behind salt plains and crystalline seas. No air remains to distribute heat. The planet's surface loses its residual warmth into space, cooling steadily toward -270 degrees Celsius. Radiation bombards every exposed surface without hindrance, slowly altering the mineral composition of rocks, metals, and ice. Earth drifts cold and lifeless, a barren orb scarred by cosmic winds, micrometeorite impacts, and solar storms. Cities that once bustled with life remain frozen, skeletal monuments to a forgotten civilization. Glass towers shimmer like fragile ice, steel frameworks bent and warped from thermal extremes. Bridges, highways, and stadiums lie cracked and silent, frozen mid-collapse. Forests, if any remain, are crystalline cathedrals. Trees shattered, leaves desiccated into fine glass-like filaments. Rivers, lakes, and oceans are rigid, fractured, reflecting faint sunlight in ghostly glimmers. Even tectonic activity becomes a silent witness. Volcanoes erupt occasionally, only to have their ash settle in frozen patterns, creating layers upon layers of gray across desolate plains. Mountains rise imperceptibly, glaciers creep forward at near geological speeds, reshaping valleys in slow-motion choreography, all without life to witness. Without air, sound ceases entirely. Collapsing structures, cracking ice, shifting tectonic plates, all are silent. Life has no medium through which to scream or whisper. Time itself seems to stretch, meaningless in the absence of observers, as the planet drifts endlessly in the void. Radiation continues its invisible work. Cosmic rays, unimpeded by atmosphere or magnetic shielding, slowly alter surface molecules, etching ghostly luminescent patterns into ice and stone. Decades, centuries, millennia, all recorded not in memory or consciousness, but in silent atomic rearrangements. The planet is both archive and tomb. From orbit, Earth is a fragile, pale sphere, drifting silently past stars that shine unfiltered. No clouds scatter light, no wind dances through leaves, no ocean waves lap its shores. The planet's heartbeat, once vibrant, chaotic, full of life, has slowed to an eternal zero. Philosophically, this is the ultimate reminder. Life is ephemeral, a temporary fluctuation of chemistry, energy, and memory. Without the invisible scaffolding of atmosphere, without the delicate balance of temperature, pressure, and radiation shielding, existence collapses utterly. The Earth becomes a mausoleum, drifting alone in the cosmos, carrying the faint, fading echoes of a world that once sang, laughed, and loved. Even light seems different here. refracted only by frozen surfaces, glinting off glaciers and ice sheets in sharp spectral shards. Shadows are eternal and harsh, unsoftened by air. The blackness of space presses close, indifferent and infinite. The Earth's silence is now absolute. No sound, no wind, no whisper of life. Time stretches on, uncaring, indifferent. Even if life were to return in some distant eon, it would find a planet that remembers nothing of its former glory. No forests, no oceans, no cities, no songs. Light continues its journey across the cosmos, brushing past Earth, carrying only the faintest traces of its lost vibrancy. The planet drifts, silent, frozen, scarred, a perfect monument to the impermanence of life. A world that once thrived now exists only as memory in the universe, absolute, eternal, and forgotten.